does the color blue even exist? I've been chatting to some of you on the line. Seems like some of you are wearing blue shirts in honor of this. I also am wearing a blue shirt. Anyway, I'm pretty excited to get started. Hey, I'm just gonna say hello to everyone. I got a lot of caps lock love here. Hi Phil from Japan Maple. Japan Maple, I haven't seen you for a few sessions. Great to see you again. Phoebe says, I've just got a blue pen, that's all, but you've got caps lock, so that's okay, Phoebe. Great to see you guys. We're gonna get started, and I got lots to get through, so I thought we could have like a little opening activity for this lesson on does the color blue even exist, with a little bit of a challenge. You might have remembered this from like years back. This was a little internet thing that sort of took everyone by storm. What color is the dress? What color is the dress for you? Let me know. When you see that dress, what do you see? Phoebe says, for me, it's gold. Kieran White says blue and black. Japan Mabel says blue and black, and that's final. Blue. Does anyone see white and gold? Gold for me. Phoebe says yes. Oh, okay, nice. Guys, this was something that went up, just sort of showing how people's perceptions can be different. A lot of it has to do with a whole bunch of sciencey stuff, and I'm not a scientist. I write poems, so I'm not quite sure. But it has to do with how perceptions are altered. But that's not the point of this lesson. If you know why we see different colors with this thing, maybe let me know in the chat line. Shribman's the expert for this though, not me. Okay. Oh, a lot of people saying they're late. Don't worry, we got a lot of opening activities here. But today we're going to be looking at the question, does the color blue even exist? But more specifically, and a way of going into this, and because this is an English lesson, it's language. Where does it come from? And this is actually a bit of a shout out. This is a request that I got way back from, I think maybe it was Kieran Wyatt, who said, hey, can we do more of where languages come from? I touched on that a little bit in one lesson on metaphor and how to tell the truth through lies. So I thought I'd do a whole lesson on it. And that's what this is. Yes, we're going to be talking about the color blue, but really we're talking about where language comes from. So shout out to Kieran Wyatt. Kieran Wyatt also on the line says, I think originally it was because of different brightnesses on people's phones and the environment they were in, but I don't know, that's kind of true. Maybe that is true because I've got it on my iPad here, and I see it on my iPad that I'm flipping the screen to as white and gold, but on my laptop I see it as blue and black. That's cool. All right. We're going to go and explore the question, language, where does it come from? Thanks to Kieran Wyatt for this. To start off with though, at the very start with language, why don't I just ask this question? What was your first word, and do you have a funny story about it? What was your first word, and do you have a funny story about it? And while you're there, maybe you can let me know which of these babies is the cutest baby? Which of these babies is the cutest baby? And what was your first word, and do you have a story about your first word? Let me know. Okay. Whoa. Okay. A lot of information coming in on the text line here. We've got someone said madness. I don't know if that's their first word. Someone's like baba. Someone's duck. Someone's first word is envelope. Cute babies, the sleeping ones. Yeah, the sleeping ones are good. First word is Barbie. That's interesting. Maddie Rez. Okay, my first word was no, and I screamed it in public, I think. Yeah, that probably says a lot about you, Jeff is cool. I remember your suggestions for that penguin story. You seemed the sort of kid who'd have a first word as no, that you'd be screaming. Caps lock, remember? Thank you, Leonardo Press. Caps lock, indeed. Banana. Okay. All right. I've just written a whole bunch of these down. Excuse my messy writing. But what I want to do with these first words is create a poem out of them. I was trying to write a poem quickly there, but there was so much chat happening. I was writing down heaps of stuff. People were saying they love sleeping babies and how cute they are. People were telling people off for caps lock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a poem for next session using all of these first words that you said as a baby. But I'm going to point out a few interesting things from this. Some of these words are pretty complicated, like envelope. But a lot of these words have a lot of similarities. For instance, this word here, banana. Banana is very similar to a lot of children's first word. Universally, babies' first words are mum or mama. And their second word, almost universally, is this first word here, baba. And I was thinking we could set a little challenge where, for instance, Barbie is kind of similar to kind of like dada, papa, baba, Barbie. Banana has both of them. It's got like the ba from the papa, but also the n from the mum. Even madness, I don't know if that was a serious suggestion, but ma. I don't know if that was a serious suggestion, but duck as well. Duck. It's got the vowel and it's got the d. We're going to just have a look now, and I'm going to write down as many names for mum or dad from different countries that we can. Maddie Rez says, never trust a poet. Good. Never trust a poet. Never trust a poet. Everyone go caps lock. Great. Everyone's on caps lock. Okay, so the first one we've got, yes, mother. And then father. Madre. Where's madre? What's madre from? Is that Spanish? Madre. Mata. We've got... do you like my dad and my mum? I've got like... Mum, that's from like a TV series called Mum. And this guy just looks like such a dad. He's got the polo shirt, everything. We've got mama. We've got, yes, Madre is Spanish. Kieran White. People who saw the dress as white gold color probably assumed it was lit by daylight, so their brains ignored shorter, bluer wavelength. Those who saw it as blue-black assumed a warm, artificial light, so their brains ignored longer, redder wavelengths. Thank you. Mum, let's get some more ones for dad. Anyone's for dad? I know in Aramaic, dad is Abba. I actually know in Tamil it's Appa. Anyone else? There's dad, Pata, Padre. All right, there's so many. All right. Here's does anyone know? This is a big question. Does anyone know why all of these names for mum and all of these names for dad are so similar to each other? Can anyone tell me why they might be so similar to each other? I'd love for someone to answer this question. There might be a couple of answers to this question. Okay, here we go. Japan Maple says, because those are the syllables babies can say easiest. Kieran White said, because they're easy to say, little simple syllables. Jeffrey Cole said, a baby just said them and they thought, oh yeah, that's a good name for me. I don't know. Japan Maple and Kieran White, you're kind of right. Yes. It's because linguists, so people who study language, have thought that maybe it's cross language and it is passed on. But actually, the best theory we have now is that these words are very simple to say for a specific reason. So, mama, often the first thing that babies learn how to do with their mouth is breastfeed. So when they're breastfeeding, they've got it's the kind of m. You have to do that with your lips. M. You have to purse them together like that. M or n. And then also there's the vowel sound. So it might be m-a, or an. And so all of a sudden, from all different countries, you have mums who go, She said, little, did you hear that? She said mama. And maybe she said mama. Or maybe she was just making the first noises that babies make. And then the second thing that happens with babies and their development with what happens in the mouth is they start moving their tongue up to the top of their mouth. So I was wondering if at home, if you could give that a go. So move your tongue to the top of your mouth. And when you do, I want you to say t, t, t sound. Can you do that? T. Now I want you to say a d, d, d. When you say d, do you notice that your tongue's at the top of the mouth? Now I want you to say, yes, when you close your mouth, your tongue rests at the top of it. So what happens there is that the second word they say kind of has a vowel sound plus a kind of a d, 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 or a p, 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 a plosive, or a b, b, and then that's where the name comes from. So maybe where do languages come from? Maybe languages come from natural things that happen with the body and humans and babies and how they develop. In fact, there are some linguists who think that there are certain words that inherently sound like the things that they are. In poetry, we'd call that onomatopoeia. The sound of the word matches the thing that's happening, like splash. Or I even think this is an onomatopoeia. Chisel, chisel, chisel. Now, these two words are actually words from a very small, a language only spoken by 6,000 people, the Huambisa. And the Huambisa, these two words, one of them is a word for fish and one of them is a word for birds. And I was wondering, we'll do a little poll on the chat line. What do you think is the word for fish? And what do you think is the word for birds? So the first word, chunchakuit. And the second word, mounts. Chunchakuit and mounts. Which one is bird and which one is fish? What do you think? All right. Japan Maple said, I can never spell onomatopoeia. Well, you didn't spell it correctly there. But it's a hard word to spell. Me neither. Chunchakuit, Kieran says that it is a bird. Kieran Wyatt said mounts is a fish. Okay, that's one for that one. Maddie says chunchakuit is bird. Jeff's Cooler says the first one is bird. A whole bunch of people say that chunchakuit is a bird. Japan Maple said it sounds like a bird call. Here's what we think. Almost everyone who takes this test gets it right. It is, in fact, chunchakuit is bird. And the bird I chose here was a cassowary, which isn't found in the forests of Peru where this Huambisa people are, but it's my favorite bird. It is the heaviest bird in Australia, and it's so beautiful and dangerous, and it splits people open with its claws and chases them down. And the fish that I chose is the numray that has an electric charge, and they're found in Sydney Harbour, where I currently am at the moment, and I went spearfishing today and I got electrocuted by a numray. So numray I'm putting for the fish for mounts. And yes, some people think that some words inherently across cultures have a quality to them that emulates the thing that they are. So chunchakuit has lots of short, sharp vowel sounds, which often match on to things that are fleet and small and tight and quick, like a bird. Maybe not the cassowary, which is the heaviest bird, but most birds. Okay, so let's get going. Where does language come from? Maybe it comes from natural things, or maybe though it actually has a wider, richer kind of maybe more people-oriented history. Jeffers calls it cassowaries are like the closest things to dinosaurs on the earth. Yeah, I've heard that as well, actually. Cassowaries are my favorite bird. They're only found on the tippy top north of Australia in the rainforests there, and a little bit in Papua New Guinea, just north of Australia. I've seen one in the wild once, and when you see them, they're not the smartest bird. You have to make yourself as tall as possible and stare it down. So they say, if you can, pick up a stick and you hold it up like this to intimidate it, or just hold your hands up like that. Why? They can kill you. They can kill you? They can kill you. Yes, they can. I think only maybe one person has died from cassowary. Don't quote me on that. But I think only one has. But yes, they have talons that are very sharp and they're very territorial. And they've been known to disembowel people. Very gruesome. Okay, next question. Why are these two things similar? A discus. So this is a discus. You know, the things that you throw. And a desk. It's a pretty cool looking desk. I'd love to work at a desk like that. Why are these things so similar? Get out of the freezer said wholesome content. Although we just got a 6-pack alert, so maybe it's not so wholesome. Little spoiler, there's going to be more 6-packs coming up in this lesson with some pictures, so stay tuned for some 6-packs. Maddie Rez says, is this PG? Very good. Why is this discus similar to a desk? Jeffers Call says, because a discus is flat and so is a desk. I don't know. That is a very good answer. And I think it's pretty close to the truth. I think we're going to move on. I think you're pretty bang on there. It is similar because it has the same similar root of where it comes from. And when we learn about where words come from, what we're studying is we're studying a thing called etymology, the study of where words originate, which is so fascinating. So, for instance, from the word discus, we get tisk, which is German. It's a German word for table. And then table, we actually get two words in English. One of them is dish and the other one is desk. I think this is a really cool etymology because, yes, we get dish from tisk because dishes are associated with tables. You put dishes on tables. But when you combine dish and desk, when you think about it, that's what a tish or a table is. It's a desk for your dishes. So the etymology of discus is it's a flat object. And so when we had German tisk for table, they were like, it's flat, like a discus. And then from there, we get dish and desk. I think that's kind of cool. I think that's really cool. Wow, so much interesting chat in the line. We've got gang. It hurts my mind. Everyone with OCD. Dish desk. Oh, that's really hard to say. Fish desk. Fish, food, dish, dash, discus. So much Jeff is Cooler octopus going on. Thanks, Jeff is Cooler. Maybe we can... So, did discuss come from the Greeks? That's a great question, Kieran White. I don't have time right now to Google that. Could you Google that? Can you let us know? And so, languages borrow from each other, and some languages die and new ones come up, and this is a very bad map of how certain Indo-European languages came into development. When I say Indo-European, it kind of stretches from West India all the way over to like Scotland and the Middle East and Europe. All of those languages share a common ancestors. And the reason this isn't a good map is it's way more complicated than that. Languages borrowing from ancient languages and some languages dying. And so this is a more accurate map, but you guys can't see that. It's so dense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down a little bit with just one word. But the word is the word for two. And it's this here. I want you to answer me this. How is the Drake meme similar to this mind map of how the word for two came about through multiple different languages? All right, what do you reckon? How is this Drake meme similar to this mind map of how the word for two came about in lots of different languages? Zoom in, please. All right, I will zoom in for you. That's the best I can do so you can still see the Drake. What do you reckon? There are two images. The Drake mean has been adapted in a lot of different ways, but with the same base. Oh my goodness, Kieran Wyatt has got it. Yes, it's not about what the meme actually is. It's the fact that it's a meme. And memes are essentially a duplicated image of form that has been altered. And this is what has happened here. The word dwa in a Proto-Indo-European, over here in Sanskrit, dva has become do, and dui. It's being duplicated and then changed. And in a way, they're kind of like memes. In fact, these kind of words actually have a special name, and they're not memes. The name is actually cognates. A cognate duplicates and then changes and morphs. And that's how languages often develop. Indo-European languages kind of borrow from each other. It's a whole nother story over in East Asia and the Australasian languages in the Americas as well. We might get to that though. Okay, next question. Does anyone know how the word jeans got its name? Because names for things and words change all the time. How did jeans get its name? What do you guys reckon? Get how the phrase said, using memes to teach lessons is the ultimate form of communications. Thank you. Cognate memes is the new thing. Spread the word. Thanks, Japan Maple. I mean, cognates are kind of memes, so hopefully it all just spreads. Jeffy's call says, what I don't get is why most languages in Europe say ananas, but we say pineapple. That is a really, really good question. Yes, ananas, pineapple. I don't know the answer to that, Kieran White. Can you get back to me on that? Kieran? No, sorry, that's Jeffy's Cooler. Jeffy's Cooler, get back to me. Jeffy's Cooler and Kieran White ask great questions. Jean is a cotton. It was made by a woman called Jean. Genes, as in like DNA genes. These are all great. No, actually, oh my goodness. Phoebe, jeans are named after the city of Genoa in Italy. That is a really good answer. Kind of, yes. So jeans were first invented by this guy called Levi Strauss, and that's where we get Levi's from. And Levi Strauss invented these jeans, but they were first manufactured in two cities. One was in Genoa, in Italy, and one was in Nîmes. And pretty much the French word for Genoa is actually, now it's pronounced jean, but it would be jeans in an anglicized way. And in France, where they were made, so they were made in Italy and France, they were from France, so the word for of in France is, and so it would be denim, denim, and jeans. And that's where we get jeans from, and that's where we get the word denim from. Language is crazy where origins come from. And they don't just have to be from, ancient Sanskrit. It's happening right now. New words are being invented all the time. Hit me up with your favorite invented word, the word that was invented in the last 5 years. Okay, we're going to keep going on. Still got a bit to get through. Gee, this is fun. I really like this. All right, here's a question for you guys. We're going to finally get into the color blue. I want you to answer this in caps lock and tell me, why do you think ancient Egypt was the only ancient culture that had a word for blue? Why do you think? Why was ancient Egypt the only ancient culture that had a word specifically for blue? That's true. Yeah, it's true. The ancient Mesopotamians didn't. The Greeks didn't. Why did the Egyptians? What do you reckon? Leonardo Perez is like, finally, we get to the blue content. That's right. What do you guys reckon? Kieran White said, yeet, I love yeet. Yeet. I love yeet as a word. I think it's almost onomatopoeic. Leonardo Press says, for this question, they wore blue. Was there God dressed in blue, says Rapper Singh. That's a great one. It's not quite that. They're the only ones who could create blue artificially is a great answer. And you know what? It's pretty much the answer. The answer is that they could manufacture blue dye and export it and sell it. And because they had that, because they had industry and money associated with it, almost they had branding for it, and they created a name for it, which I think is cool, which means kind of in a way, ad agencies or ancient Egyptian ad agencies invented the color blue for money. So that's why they did. And they loved having blue everywhere. It was a sign of wealth to have like blue artwork. The pharaohs loved it. You might see Tutankhamun's like headdress. It's gold and it's inlaid with all this blue. But actually it's interesting because blue, funnily enough, isn't really a color that you see that often in nature. And I know what you're going to say, the sky and the sea because of the reflection. Sure. But I mean like in the actual world, there's not many blue things that we eat naturally. Like we might eat like blue sweets, and you're going to say to me like blueberries. And blueberries are kind of not that blue. They're kind of more purpley. Maybe they're more blue in like Scandinavia, but in Australia, they're not kind of that blue. Get out of the freezer says, peasants, I have a blue shirt on. So do I. Get out of the freezer. Okay. So to find out where language comes from, we're going to go through a history of color. This is an excerpt from Homer's The Odyssey, a very old, very famous book. This is a bad translation, but the reason I have it here is just for one phrase. And the phrase here that I have is sailing over the wine dark sea. And everyone thought, oh, that's so poetic what Homer's doing. He's talking about the sea being wine dark. Wow, what a great poetry. And then this guy, William Gladstone, in 1858, who was a scholar, but then later became like Prime Minister of the UK, said, hold on a second. I actually don't think Homer had a word for blue. And so he didn't describe the sea as wine dark, maybe because that's how he saw it. He literally saw it as wine dark. He wasn't being poetic. They didn't have a color for blue, so he couldn't see it. And he calculated that in the Odyssey, the word black was mentioned 200 times, white 100, red 15, yellow 10, green 10, blue 0. Which is so interesting because in the Odyssey, there's so many minute descriptions of people and like their armor and like fights that happen and describing, but there's no blue, which is super interesting. Get out of the freezer says he was colorblind. Yeah, maybe he was colorblind. Maybe he was. Rapper Singh, did you know that brown is not a color and it's just a darker orange? There's not even a wavelength for it. That's so interesting. You guys have got some great facts here. Maddie Rez said there's a blue purpley flower called grape hyacinth. I like that. Okay. Japan Maple says, doesn't that reflect like how colors are named in languages? It kind of does. And that's where the whole point of this session is that actually that's where language kind of came from. Language came from recognizing difference. Just like the ancient Egyptians were smart and wanted to make a buck on this new dye. We recognize things when we have need. So people have worked out, oh yeah. And so maybe, have anyone seen 300? Like, and it's set in ancient Greece and it's got this weird color palette. And it got me thinking like, maybe that's what it kind of looked like to people. Like there's some red there and the world's worst massage over here. But maybe actually it kind of did look in this almost monochromatic way. I don't know, that's just a silly thought. But actually we only have need for colors that we see. And so the development of language, scholars think that it started with black and white. Ideas of darkness and light, often connected to religious imagery, and ideas of death and ideas of life. All of that was the first one. And the second one, can anyone guess what the second color that often gets used in languages is after black and white? The Real Joe 04 says, do you mean Homer and Simpsons? No, I mean Homer. He's an ancient Greek writer. Japan Maple says red. People say green. People say red. Yes, the answer is red. Does anyone know why it would be red? It's red because red is the color of blood. So red is the color of blood. Red is the color of passion. Red has some links to some triggers in biology. So like blushing of cheeks is a big signifier that we have as humans. The reddening of lips when you're kind of like keen on someone. All of that comes into play. The third one is kind of like yellow, and sometimes it's green, depending on the culture. Does anyone know why that might be? Why sometimes for some cultures it's green, for other cultures the next word is yellow? What do you guys reckon? Because leaves and sometimes in deserts? Yeah, it has to do with that. It has to do with kind of leaves and deserts because of weather changes, because of plants. That's a really good one. The reason is because some cultures need to have a finely tuned sense of green with different greens because maybe they're hunters and they need to be able to see things in the foliage. A lot of the time, there's just more green as well. People who live in deserts don't have need for describing green as much. There's all these theories. Again, I'm not like a linguist and a sociologist, but so this is a whole color theory. This isn't gospel, but this is generally what happens in development of language. And the last one is blue, and not every culture has words for blue. In fact, even today, there are cultures who don't need words for blue. For instance, the Himba people of the Namibia, which is in southwestern Africa, were given a test where they had to find the color blue in a whole bunch of different colors, a whole bunch of different green squares. And this is the test. Now, for you and I imagine that's kind of easy, right? We know where the blue is. But a lot of the Himba people who took this were tripped up a lot of the time, or they were very slow, or they made mistakes. And that isn't because, obviously, the Himba people are less intelligent. No. They just don't have a word for it, so they don't see it. And it's kind of what I have to... Where do the languages come from? Languages come from, and realities come from, and colors come from saying them out loud. The ancient Hebrew biblical texts, biblical scriptures say God spoke the world into being. There's something generative. There's something like that comes and is almost created when we say something. Having said that, the Himba people were given another test where they were giving a whole lot of different greens. So every green was the same in here, except for one which was a slightly different shade of green. Now, in Himba language, they have multiple names and different types of words for green, and there's separate colors to them, and immediately they could pick it out. And they're used to finding things and hunting, and they're used to distinguishing between different types of green, and it might be the difference between life and death. So I was wondering if we could leave it here, leave it with you. Can you figure out what is the odd green out? Which one is it? Jeff is cool said Indonesian people call blue and green the same color. That's kind of cool. Jeff is cooler says, yeah, it's the second on the left. Rapper Singh said trick question. No, it's not a trick question. Okay, I'm getting a bit for 12. Congratulations. It is 12. Well done, guys. I'm sure it took you a little bit of time, though. The next one. What do you reckon? I'm going to finish it 8. It's slightly swampier. Interesting. 4. Guys, this was a trick question. It's 12 again. I just duplicated the image. What suffice to say is that colors and language have a really interesting relationship. And the color blue might exist or it might not exist depending on whether we have a word or need for it. And this might change throughout time. I'm looking forward to finding out what color in the future, for instance, we will have a word for that becomes so important to us. Anyway, guys, I thought I'd leave it there. Thank you for your contributions. This has been really, really fun. I'm going to make a little baby names poem with the first names that you gave me. But I'm going to sign off now. Thanks so much. My name's Phil Wilcox. I'll catch you later.